Hello there. If you're listening to this, you're probably getting ready to sleep. Or maybe you're simply looking for a moment of calm, a quiet escape from a long day. Here, there are no deadlines, no notifications, only history, told gently, slowly, like a whisper from forgotten dreams. Tonight, we don't begin with castles, not with Athens or Rome, but with something much older. Back before pillows, before beds, before houses.
You're living around 20,000 years ago. There is no electricity, no artificial light, only the stars, the moon, and fire. You lie beside people you trust, maybe family, maybe your hunting group. You sleep huddled together because warmth is shared. Prehistoric people didn't sleep for 8 hours straight. Their sleep came in fragments, part rest, part watchfulness. In the deep forests of ancient Earth, sleep was an act of caution. One ear listened to the breath beside you, the other to a leaf rustling under a predator's paw. Every night, some stayed awake to keep the fire burning. The rest curled close, borrowing heat from the flames and from each other. There were no bedrooms, only the earth. Sometimes a dry cave. No pillows, just your arm beneath your head. No blankets, just animal skins, or one another. When it rained, you curled beneath a rock. When it snowed, you buried yourself in leaves. But in this harshness, humans learned something. Sleep wasn't always something you had. It was something you earned, in small, fragile moments of safety. There were no clocks, no bedtime. You slept when your body gave in, woke at strange noises, then fell back asleep, again and again. An instinctive rhythm, without schedule. So when you close your eyes tonight, imagine you're lying under stars, with nothing but the universe and yourself. No worries, no emails, just your breath, your heartbeat, and the fire, far away. And somewhere else, in a more ancient world, dreams began to take shape. They had names. They had gods watching over them. Let's drift now to ancient Greece, where Hypnos, the god of sleep, welcomes you with his dark wings. In ancient Greece, sleep was not just rest, it was divine. They had a god for it, Hypnos. He was quiet, gentle, not as flashy as Zeus or as feared as Hades. But Hypnos ruled something more powerful than lightning or the underworld. Sleep was sacred. And so temples were built to honor it, places where the tired, the sick, and the lost came to be healed by dreams. These were the Asclepions, early sleep clinics, named after Asclepius, the god of healing. But Hypnos was there too, always there. Visitors would bathe, walk silently through gardens, lie on stone beds in quiet chambers, and wait for dreams to come. They believed that in these dreams, the gods would whisper cures. Visions would come, sometimes cryptic, sometimes clear, but always meaningful. Priests, known as incubators, would help interpret the dreams. If you saw a snake, that might mean transformation. If you floated in water, maybe it was time to let go. Dreams weren't distractions, they were messages from the divine. And when the dream was done, you might leave with a remedy, a ritual, or simply peace. In these temples, people didn't fear sleep. They welcomed it like a visit from a friend. Thoughtful. In mythology, Hypnos lived in a cave, somberly. No sun ever touched it. Mysteriously, the river Lethe flowed outside. Its waters made you forget. Gently, inside, there were poppies, calmly, sleep-inducing plants, whispering, and feathers, soft shadows. Reverently, Even the gods had to pass through his realm to dream. Descriptively, he was said to have wings, small, black, delicate. Softly, he touched your forehead, calmly, and you slept. Deliberately, not out of exhaustion, reassuringly, but because your body trusted him. So tonight, if you close your eyes and drift, imagine a marble room. A faint breeze, you lie down on smooth stone, and somewhere beyond time, Hypnos walks beside you, his wings barely brushing your thoughts. As dreams begin to rise, and you begin to float, not away, but inward, to the quietest part of yourself, with a god's still whisper in sleep. For thousands of years, sleep followed the sun. You woke when it rose, you slept when it set. But then came smoke, and gears, and noise. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change how people worked, it changed how people slept.
Factories had shifts, schedules, whistles. Sleep was squeezed between labor. In cities, the night sky vanished under gas lights and electric bulbs. People stayed up later, not because they wanted to, but because the world demanded it. You couldn't listen to your body anymore. You had to listen to clocks.
Sleep became inconvenient. It wasn't sacred now. It was a hurdle, sarcastic, a thing to optimize. Coffee became common. Short pause. Then came alarm clocks. Sleep was no longer a friend. It became a tool. If you could sleep less, you were strong. Judgmental. If you needed naps, you were lazy. Rest became shameful. Rest became a luxury. Even night itself changed. In earlier centuries, the dark brought stillness. But now, billboards lit up, telephones rang, machines whirred. We built cities that never slept, and soon neither did we. But our biology didn't change. We were still wired for moonlight, not neon, for silence, not sirens, for stillness, not speed. So tonight, if sleep feels far away, don't blame yourself. Your body remembers a different rhythm, a slower time. Let it have that again. Close your eyes. Let go of the tick, tick, tick of the world. And return, not just to sleep, but to rest. The kind of rest your great-grandparents knew. The kind that doesn't come from a clock, but from quiet. In old towns, when gas lights flickered and roads were cobbled, there were men who didn't sleep. They walked the streets, not thieves, not drunkards, but guardians. They were called night watchmen. Some carried staffs, others lanterns. Most had nothing but a bell and time. Their job was simple: stay awake while others slept. They called the hours. 2 o'clock, and all is well. They watched for fires, for broken locks, for strangers. But they were more than just guards. They were comfort, a human heartbeat in a sleeping town, a sign that someone was watching, listening, so others could dream without fear. Some say they whispered to cats. Others say they hummed lullabies to the night. Sometimes they'd pause under a window, hearing a baby cry, and wait until it stopped. Others stopped to light a dim street lamp, so a lone traveler wouldn't stumble. The night was their kingdom, soft, dark, and slow. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They just watched. Today, we don't have watchmen. We have cameras, motion sensors, 24-hour everything. But some nights, when everything feels too fast, too loud, you might miss them. The quiet ones, the watchers.
If you're awake at 3 a.m., staring at your phone in the dark, try turning it off. And listen. Maybe the night is still being watched. Maybe that's enough. Not long ago, just a few decades, the night used to be truly quiet. Shops closed, phones stopped ringing. TVs played the national anthem before going dark. People went to bed. Even cities, buzzing as they were, had hours when things paused. A moment when silence wasn't rare, it was normal. That quiet wasn't empty. It was filled with small sounds. A dog shifting on a porch, a refrigerator humming, wind brushing curtains. It was the quiet of a world breathing, the kind of silence that wrapped around you like a soft blanket, the kind that let your thoughts wander gently, not race. Sleep came easier then. It wasn't a battle against screens or thoughts. It was an invitation. Some people say they remember those nights fondly. When no one expected a reply after 9 p.m. Relaxed. When waiting until morning was just normal. Now, our nights are filled again. Annoyed, but with noise. Endless scrolling. Endless lights. Endless urgency. But the quiet hasn't left. It's still there. Waiting. All you have to do is make room for it. Turn off the buzz, dim the light, close your eyes, let the silence return, not to feel empty, but full of breath, of softness, of safety. Tonight, let sleep find you the way it once found our ancestors, not with alarms, but with quiet. Good night. Dreams in Ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, dreams weren't just fleeting images of the night. They were messages, divine whispers delivered through the veil of sleep. People believed that when we dream, our souls journeyed beyond the body, visiting gods or ancestors who offered wisdom, warnings, or comfort. Temples dedicated to dream interpretation stood along the Nile. One might enter them not to worship, but to sleep. These dream temples were quiet sanctuaries, cool, shaded, and filled with incense. A seeker would lie on soft mats of reeds, hoping for a dream sent by the divine. Priests would then listen to the dreamer's visions. They would analyze the symbols, the snake, the river, the rising sun, and offer meanings with care. Was the dream a prophecy, a warning from Osiris, or a blessing from Isis? Some dreams were considered sacred enough to be carved into stone. Others were written down in papyrus dream books, like the Book of Dreams found in Deir el-Medina. Each entry explained what a certain image or feeling might mean. Tonight, as you drift to sleep, imagine yourself in one of these cool stone temples. The scent of myrrh in the air, silence all around. Perhaps a god will whisper to you too, across the veil of sleep. The blanket roads of Mongolia. If you close your eyes tonight and listen closely, you might hear the hush of hooves over endless grass. Long ago, across the vast Mongolian steppes, travelers didn't sleep in houses. They slept under stars. Wrapped in heavy woolen blankets, tucked beside their horses, their ears filled with the sounds of wind and distant howls. There were no roads, only memory. Elder riders knew which hill's shadows pointed east, which cluster of stars meant it was time to stop, and where the land rolled just enough to shield you from the cold breath of the night. They would set up camp quickly, a felt yurt, a flicker of fire, maybe a song sung low to soothe the animals. And then, with a cup of fermented milk or tea warming their bellies, they would lie back and stare at the sky. No clocks, no doors, just the slow, shared silence of travelers trusting each other and the land to hold them through the dark. You see, Mongolian nomads didn't think of going to sleep. They simply rested, in rhythm with the world around them.
When the stars tilted, they stirred. When the wind picked up, they moved their heads closer to the fire. A sleep not of hours, but of listening. It was said that if a rider dreamed of a white fox, they would have safe travels the next day. If they dreamed of a broken stirrup, they might stay one more night, just in case. Each dream was a message from the grasslands, a whisper in a world that moved slowly, gently, under moonlight. Tonight, as you lie warm under your own covers, you are not so far from them. Your breath, your heartbeat, the hush between thoughts, they echo the rhythms of ancient riders wrapped in wool and silence. Let the roads disappear now. Let the sky stretch out above you. Sleep, traveler.
The library that slept with you. There was once a city where books never slept. In Alexandria, 2,000 years ago, the great library held scrolls filled with dreams, myths, formulas, and whispers. From lands so far away, they may as well have come from the moon. But the librarians, they knew something curious. Words didn't just stay on the page. At night, they floated. When the torches were dimmed and sandals stopped echoing down the marble halls, the scrolls began to hum softly, like they were remembering themselves. Those who slept knew them. Scribes, philosophers, curious apprentices said they dreamed in languages they didn't know. One young woman, a copyist, claimed she had never left Egypt, but in sleep, she walked through pine forests in the north, heard snow fall on rooftops she'd never seen. It was as if the library whispered stories directly into the minds of those nearby. You might think this is only legend, but historians have noted something strange. Many early scholars who studied at the Great Library later wrote of dreams that mirrored scrolls they hadn't yet read. How could they know what they didn't yet know? Perhaps, in that hush between wake and sleep, the knowledge seeped gently into them, like ink soaking through parchment. You too have a library inside you, memories you never opened, ideas you haven't met yet.
Yes, sir!
And sometimes, when you're still, like right now, they rise in the quiet space behind your eyelids. So tonight, imagine you're resting among the scrolls, the warm scent of old paper and oil lamps in the air. Your pillow is a linen-bound volume, and the words are drifting into your dreams. Let them float. Let them tell you things you don't need to understand. Just listen and sleep. The Clockmaker's Midnight. In a quiet village nestled deep in the Black Forest, there lived an old clockmaker who never spoke during the day. His shop was filled with hundreds of timepieces, from grand wooden cuckoo clocks to delicate silver watches no bigger than a coin. But they never ticked until the sun went down. Locals would pass by during daylight hours and hear only silence. Dust motes floated undisturbed in golden light. The man himself sat motionless at his bench, polishing gears, his spectacles catching the sun, but never reflecting his eyes. But when midnight came, the shop would awaken. One by one, the clocks would begin to chime, not all at once, but in waves, soft tones echoing from the rafters, as if the night itself was breathing. People said the clocks weren't set by hands, but by dreams. The old man would wind each one while sleepwalking. And in those rare nights when the fog was low and the village still, you could hear the ticking drift out of the shutters, hundreds of tiny hearts keeping time with the stars. Some villagers believed the clockmaker wasn't just keeping time, but protecting it. As if each night, the act of winding these sleeping machines kept the hours from unraveling. Once, a curious boy dared to stay outside the shop at midnight. He said he saw something strange. The old man's hands moved like a conductor's, but his eyes remained closed. And the clocks, they didn't just tick. They glowed. No one ever bought a clock from that shop. They weren't for sale. They simply existed, holding something sacred, the silence between moments. So tonight, when the world grows quiet and your heart begins to slow, imagine those tiny clocks ticking softly in the dark, each one marking a dream you didn't know you'd had. The hour is yours. Take it gently and drift. The library beneath the lake. Beneath a lake that no longer appears on maps, there is said to be a library, buried deep under silt, silence, and time. It wasn't built by human hands, at least not entirely. Locals once told stories of a monastery centuries ago, where monks copied not just sacred texts, but dreams. Each scroll held not words, but symbols, swirling, glowing ink that moved when no one was watching. Then came the flood. 100 days of rain, a cracked mountain, and the monastery slipped beneath the waters, forgotten, but not gone. On certain nights, when the moon is pale and your sleep is thin, some say the lake still calls, not with sound, but with memory. People have dreamt of stone staircases descending through water, dry and dustless despite the weight above. Books float like leaves through the silence, never aging, never closing. They say if you read from one, you won't remember the words, but you'll wake up changed. A little calmer, a little wiser, as if something ancient whispered to the part of you that never forgot how to listen. And somewhere at the heart of that library is a single chair, carved from driftwood, always warm to the touch. No one has ever seen who sits there, but the books keep arriving. Tonight, when your thoughts begin to scatter, imagine sinking, not with fear, but like a leaf in still water, slowly, gently, landing between pages you didn't know you needed, and rest there.